Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild podcast, a podcast all about the experiences and memories that playing games with friends and families can create. On this episode, we're going to be tearing apart each other's top 10 of all-time board games as of now, giving each other the wonderful ribbing that we all deserve, I'm sure, for the games. And of course, me with my top number one, I'm sure I'm going to be getting a hard time for that. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is that I have been playing most recently. So yeah, Peter, my name, and I've been playing a lot of Seven Wonders Duel. Been playing with both expansions, and sometimes I'll play with just the Agora expansion. Sometimes I've been playing with the Pantheon expansion, and I have played recently 2 sessions of Seven Wonders Duel with both expansions, and it is a fantastic game. Really enjoy every playthrough that I've had of it, and playing with both expansions personally, it's probably a little much. It's a lot going on, and if I had to choose just one expansion to play with, I would probably choose Pantheon. But I've really been enjoying Seven Wonders Duel. Definitely my favorite 2-player game currently, one that is easy to teach and a lot of fun to play. So that is what I've been playing lately.
I love the Pantheon expansion. So Evan, what have you been playing?
So this last little bit, what have I been playing? I got one game of Happy City in. So Happy City, it's very much like Splendor. Your goal is to build the happiest city out there. And with that, you have to spend the money that you accumulate from your different buildings that you have. Use that money to buy more buildings, and the buildings will either increase your population or your happiness. In the score in the end, it's multiplied how many people times your happiness. Real simple game. It plays real quick. We did a review on it on the channel. It was really good. That's really the only game I've played. I've been games like this last week and a half or so. Most of my time has been spent on Wild West painting and terrain for this coming Butler game day. So that's been fun. I accidentally exploded a guns and ammunition shop today because I dropped the resin model. That was fun. Some choice words were said on my parts, but yeah, it's coming along. I got a couple buildings done. I only have a couple more to do, and I think I'm pretty well set for Butler game day. Chance to win a Tombstone Tinder box from Little Wars TV that they graciously sent to us. So that's going to be fun. But that's what I have had going on.
Yeah, I actually like that Happy City a lot. I think the only thing stopping it from being like a game where the kids can figure out the score at the end of the game is that multiplication. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine, and it's a fun game.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So, Dan, what have you been playing?
Well, in the last week or so, we have gotten Mystical Veil to the table. Own this in our collection, so we actually got physical Mystical Veil to the table. And that turned out to be just as awesome as it has been in the past, more or less. We also got to the table Glenmore 2 Chronicles. We have yet to try all of the Chronicles that came in the base game. I think we've tried about half of them at this point. But that game continues to impress, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, they're both good games that I have not played Glenmore Chronicles, but I really want to. So, Nathan, how about you? What have you been playing?
I've been playing an abstract strategy game. I don't play a lot of those. This one's actually really good, but it's not rated well on BGG, mainly because I think it's mainly because the rulebook's not terribly clear. So it can take a few games to figure out how you're actually supposed to play it. But once you've got it figured out, it's a really solid game. That's Element. And in Element, you got you got stone, water, fire, and air, and that you're putting down, and you're trying to surround your opponent. But each element you put down has its own power, such as fire can spread. So if you have a line of fire, every time you put down fire, you get an additional fire in that line. Earth can form mountains and mountain ranges that are impassable. Air lets you get little whirlwinds that you can jump over things, and water forms rivers that move around. So yeah, it's got a nice little elements. Of board state changes pretty quickly. It also comes with a silver expansion that gives you one more element that you can mix in, and each game you can decide one of 3 elements for that to be. It can be wood, metal, or lightning, and each of those change up the game significantly. So for an abstract strategy game, I would consider this one of the top ones that I've played.
Another one I want to play. Sounds really cool. So for myself, I played 3 games, and one's a kid game, one's an abstract game, and one's a game about Filipino mythology. And the first game, which is the abstract game, is Hive, which is a 2-player abstract game that is amazingly fun. It is like a chess game without the board. Each of the bugs have different movements they can do. and you're simply trying to surround the opponent's queen. And all the other bugs have to be able to touch each other at different points, and you're never allowed to place a bug that touches an opponent's color. Really simple and easy game to teach, but it's very addictive, and there's a high amount of strategy to the game. So I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. The kids game I played was My First Stone Age, and I highly recommend this game for probably kids around 5 years or older in that area. The game has nice big chunky pieces, and I think it's out of print, but thankfully I found it at New Dimension Comics, which was a long time ago, but it was really good. And I got to finally get it to the table with my daughter. And you're basically collecting the different, like the tooth and the water and the arrowhead, and you're trying to get sets of those to match the huts that are out there. So they learn set collection in the game, like a very simple version of it. And they also learn to remember where the tokens are, because on your turn you flip over a token that tells you like what you get to do. You either get to move like a certain number, or you get to go to an exact space. And then when you're done, when someone flips the hut token, all those get flipped back over. So they have to remember where those are at. So if they want to go get the dog, or they want to go get the arrowhead, or they want to go get the berry, they can remember where they're at to jump there, get it, and try to get the materials they need to get another hut. First player to 3 huts wins. Really simple game, really fun, and really good component quality. The game, the Filipino Mythology game, is a very fast duel style game, but it plays up to 6 players, where you throw Filipino mythological beasts at the opponent, and they use heroes and other stuff from Filipino mythology to defend themselves. One of the cool things I really liked about this game, which I don't think enough games do that are like this, is at no point does a person run out of cards. So when it's not your turn and you're attacked and you use cards to defend yourself and you expend them, you will draw back up your hand every time. So it's not going to be like you can just keep attacking a person, they're going to run out of cards, and then before their turn you can wipe them out. So I really like that. Pretty solid game. Super amazingly high component quality on the game too, and that's what I've been playing.
Yeah, Hive's a good abstract strategy game, and there is a free app. You can try it out on the app first if you're interested in buying it.
Yeah, my wife liked it so much, we're probably going to spend the bazillion dollars that it requires to get like the pill bug and the mosquito and a couple extra bugs. It's like 2 pieces of plastic and it's like $17. I'm like, what?
Like, yeah, I saw your unboxing for the Mythology game. That product quality looked absolutely phenomenal.
The coins in it are like amazing. They're super thick. They put so much detail into them. They're just crazy.
I was impressed with just the foam insert that had the name of the game, and just like that was just unreal.
Yeah, and they're really thick tarot cards. Like you could probably kill someone with them. I won't go put that in there, but you could probably hit someone with them and not bend them. They're very thick and very high quality. And they have this like foil look on the back. Oh man, they just went all out.
No, you shouldn't have violence with your board games. You don't want to actually hurt the board game.
Unless it's Monopoly.
Well, yeah.
I don't know of the game's current availability because of the strange times that we are in, but I believe the travel edition of Hive included two of the extra bugs, like in the box set.
Yeah, it actually does. I have the full-size version because I'm old and I need to pick things up. And actually the pocket version isn't that small, but yeah, it does come with 2 of the expansion, and there's 3 expansions. Why they didn't put the 3rd one in, because it was out before pocket, but you know, whatever.
So should we get into our main event?
Yeah, you go ahead and you go on the attack first so everyone pounces on you.
Well, I figure we should start with our newest people first, because there's not too much to heckle them about. And
is there? I know someone that I have a problem with. Yep.
Well, that's what I was saying. It's like the oldest members of the guild, myself and you, of course, are probably going to be the ones most heckled. So we probably should end with us.
Yeah, go for it. Throw the.
I concur. Shot. That puts me right in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Which would mean we're starting with Evan.
Oh boy! Yay!
I mean,
welcome to my seat from last year.
It's your first year here, so we don't have too much to compare your list to. I mean, the first obvious question, we kind of touched on it last week, but the fact you didn't really include any minis games.
Yeah, so my original list that I wrote while I was sitting at work, being very productive, actually had 2 mini games on it, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep it onto board games because that's primarily what we talk about.
What were they?
I sold out. and went back to just board games. So actually, of the mini games, the only one that I can remember for sure that was on there was actually listed number 1 on my list, and that was actually Bolt Action by Warlord Games. It is such a powerhouse in the miniature world. Warlord Games just has such a proven track record with their games, other than their shipping methods to the United States, but I digress on that. The rules are very well thought out. Barrier to entry is really low. They have their product line that comes with it, but the game is really scale agnostic. I personally played in 15 millimeter, so what I paid for all of my miniatures for Allied and Axis is about what you would pay for an army in 28 millimeter, but the game still plays exactly the same, and it still plays really fun. Yeah, that was actually on my number 1. I'm trying to remember what I might have had on. It was around 8 or 9. My mind is not letting me think what it is.
Well, one of the biggest problems I had with your list, Evans, was Shiver Me Timbers was only number 10.
In hindsight, I should have probably put it lower. But yeah, it is such a good game. I think that what only kept me at 10 was that was the only time I've ever played it. If you exclude all the times of me playing Sid Meier Pirates, which I'm not including into that, since I only got to play it the one time, I think that's why it fell to where it was.
Yeah, we got to get more plays in with it. Also, need to play Mansions of Madness, because I need to get Betrayal House on the Hill off your list.
Well, the ball's in your court on that one. So
yeah, it's true, and I definitely will play it. We'll get it played.
I was going to say this is less of a heckle, but I'm excited that I had Evan show up, and though Betrayal fell off of my list, it was still on a list. That made me happy.
We effectively got it off of Peter's list. So you're next.
Not so much of a heckle. Betrayal was a big game for me earlier in my storied career as a gamer as well. It sort of fell out of favor when we didn't have the play group to support it anymore, I guess. Because the game doesn't work unless you have 3 or 4 people.
You need the group for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big downside to that, is need the higher player count. My wife enjoys playing it, so that's a game that we'll play ourselves every once in a while. And we just play 2 characters each, which works-ish, but then it turns into a big hassle once the haunt comes out, because then one person's playing 1 and somebody else is playing 3. And it gets really hard.
Biggest thing with Betrayal, though, is it's generally a very good game. It's very fun. It's kind of little campy, little nonsense, but fun. But every once in a while, it can break. And there are a lot of games out there now that do the same thing, but don't have that risk of breaking. And
Mansions of Madness.
Yeah, and that's why it falls off a lot of people's lists. And we got to get it off your list.
Well, it's James. James is the one that has to do that.
Mansions of Madness also plays really, really well solo, and it also plays really well 2-player. Just saying.
These are all just words until it actually happens.
It's true.
It'll be a life-changing moment. You'll be like, oh.
But also I will go ahead and say, you buy Mansions of Madness, the base game, and how many scenarios do you get, James? 4?
I think you get 4.
4. Betrayal at the House on the Hill, you buy it for $30 and you get 50.
You could also go to McDonald's and get 10 cheeseburgers for the same price as a steak. So
not a fair comparison. Not even close.
And I have Widow's Walk with my Betrayal, so I have 100.
Yeah, me too. Me too, Evan. We'll play Betrayal sometime, Evan.
Yeah, we'll play it.
100 of mediocre scenarios compared to 4 amazing scenarios.
Yeah, but what are the gross sales of McDonald's to a steakhouse, though?
A lot of people out there who like McDonald's.
It's actually the same. More copies of Betrayal House on Hell have been sold than Mansions of Madness. That's mainly because it's in big box stores, and it has no real barrier. So you get the simple parts, and it's all ready to go. So it has very low production cost. Mansions of Madness is way up there in production cost. So I think it's $80 to buy it.
Yeah, it's expensive.
And to be fair, I do have 3 versions of Betrayal, and I will play it anytime anybody asks, but it just wouldn't make my top 10.
Yeah, I got a copy of Betrayal House on the Hill, and then I won it 3 times.
I'm on the same boat with another game on his list, like Lords of Waterdeep. It's in my collection. I think it's a solid title. It's not one of my favorites, but I would play it.
I think Lords of Waterdeep is a board game staple. If you have people come over frequently or whatnot and have game nights, I think Lords of Waterdeep is a staple board game that should be in a board game shelf, especially if you like Euros. And it's super easy to get people in that aren't necessarily in the hobby. That lots of people like D&D, unfortunately. And
talking about a segue here.
They'll get them the theme of the game.
It's all right.
It's all nice.
It's a theme that'll keep coming back as we talk tonight, I'm sure.
Pretty much. But yeah, it's a solid worker placement game. I think Dune Imperium does a better job with the same thing, and other games do, but it's definitely a solid game.
I have it on my list because it is such a solid game. I mean, the D&D aspect into it is a big draw to it, but I put it right in there because it is such a good gateway game. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons out there, but that's just one that I would always go to. It was like, oh, I don't really play board games that much other than like Monopoly or Life. Like, try this. It's not that complicated. You will have fun.
It's sort of like D&D. It's just a gateway thing. You just play it for a little bit and then forget about it, and you can move on to better things.
Or you just play it forever.
So Evan's list. I liked your list. It was great. Star Wars Rebellion. Amazing game. It was on my top 10 a couple times.
That is a game that is on my list to play.
Yeah, you haven't
it is
until you
so
play.
Like you're committing good 3 to 5 hours to that from beginning to end. But it's fully immersive. It's really good.
Again, I play D&D. 4 hours or nothing.
It's like 4 hours, nothing to me. It's
nothing to me.
Nothing.
I'm there.
It has amazingly good tension in the game too. No matter what side on you, you're just terrified. Like you're the Imperials with like you're covering the entire board, and you're like, I can't find the base. Where the heck is the base? I'm running out of time. And the Rebels, you're like, help me. It's a great game.
So I guess the only thing I'm going to nitpick Evan for is he just has games that I don't even know on his list. Like I can't give you a hard time about Rise to Nobility. I don't know Rise to Nobility. Never heard of this game. Come on.
I was just surprised that's the only game on his list I didn't know. Again, because he didn't include those minis games because he was chicken and afraid of us giving him a hard time about them.
I wasn't chicken. I just wanted to keep it on topic. I didn't want to be the one to go off topic like other people that are on this list. But yeah, with Rise to Ability, I'm just such a fan of that studio. I just like a lot of their product that they have put out, and everything that they do, they put through Kickstarter. But they only generally average, I think, is somewhere between like $80,000 to $100,000 on whatever they raise. So it's never a lot, but what they put out is really good for what they raise. Any of their products, I would be willing to play at any time with anybody. It's good stuff. Actually, I have one over here that I think I want to get over to Pete because I think that would be right up his alley because it's like an adventure-esque game. It plays pretty short. I haven't got a chance to play it yet, but to give it a shot.
I would be very interested.
If you could find time behind the 50-pound stack of RPGs.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find some time in there somewhere.
I like the art on Rise and Ability a lot.
Yeah, the same artist that goes through that. I mean, and he's done some major titles like Viscounts, which is back through Kickstarter right now. You can get a new printing with expansions, I believe, and that entire line of games that are out there. He's done all those and pretty much everything that he's done with Final Frontier 2. And then I got the Token Sesame counter system, which is just basically a fancy like bowl set to keep your counters for all your board games. He was actually one of the artists that put art into that. So you could have, they had like 8 or 9 artists that you could pick the art for and to customize your special bowls. And he was the one that I picked because I really do like his art style.
The other thing I expect to see a little more of on your list was GMT games. I kind of had you pegged as a GMT guy, like Dominant Species or Space Corp and things like that.
So I got the Dominant Species onto the iPad. I did not like it. I did not like the play. I don't know. There was something about it that just bugged me every time I logged in. I started going, and I'm like, just wasn't my thing.
You should play the GMT game Lemmings, and then you'll have a much better appreciation for all other board games.
Is it like Lemmings, the old DOS game from like 1980?
Basically, in Lemmings, you're just trying to go off and jump off the cliff, and you get points if you can get to the edge of the cliff and use most of your movements to jump over, so you can do tricks. And the more tricks you do, the more points you get. But you can send this eagle against the other player. They eat the Lemmings. It's just dumb. So dumb.
But it's so absurd. I'd play that.
But it's so dumb.
Yeah, they often talk about how board games can be great teaching tools. I'm not sure that's like what you'd want to use for that.
I think we should move on. Not because I want to roast Pete, but because I really want to roast James. How about that?
For Peter, I don't have a whole lot. And we're Tabletop Gaming Guild. So I have to pick on you for Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That's right. I forgot. Dungeons and Dragons is not played at a table?
Oh,
no.
it doesn't have to be.
I played on my floor.
It doesn't have a
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have a structure or rules or anything.
It doesn't have rules?
It doesn't have to.
I'm pretty sure it has to have some rules because it's a game.
You can.
I will state I have many a Dungeon and Dragon books that do have rules aplenty in them.
But the first paragraph on every single one is that you're allowed to pick and choose what you want. So I'm like, no rules.
Exactly. No. You can
rules.
You can pick and choose from the rules. And you can homebrew, and I've definitely played board games where people pick and choose their rules too.
But by definition, with that, if the first rule is you can pick and choose your rules, aren't you following the rules by following that rule?
Preach, Evan.
Last day of Evan on the no, D&D is fine. I never.
And at what point has our percentage? What's our percentage in our RPG content and board game content on our YouTube channel right now, James? I'm just saying
it's all board game pretty much.
It is not
RPGs
all
are
board
catching
game.
up.
It is not all board game. Almost every video I put out has been RPG, and I
that's true. That's true. And you're gonna have a lot more, so it's gonna be a good percentage. But
that's right. So let's not dunk a little too hard on RPGs at this point.
Well, you're reviewing superior RPGs.
I
just said Dungeons and Dragons. Technically, I didn't say all the other RPGs.
Okay, Dungeons and Dragons though is a vastly wonderful RPG. There are other fantastic RPGs out there, and I look forward to eventually playing one enough that it surpasses D&D.
This is my last job. So I equate D&D as the equivalent of Monopoly to board games.
Whoa.
I think we did.
No. I have nothing wrong with your list. My only problems, I'm going to nitpick, and that's it. My only problems is that I've never tried Unmatched, and I've never tried Seven Wonders Duel. But I've tried all of your other games, and I've liked all of them. So I guess I'm fine with it.
I think Seven Wonders Duel is awesome, but I do think the Pantheon expansion makes it better.
Okay.
I like the more choices thing.
I would agree with that. I think it lifts it up in a way that Agora does not quite do. Agora makes it almost a new game to me.
I'd agree with that.
It doesn't lift up the base game. Pantheon definitely lifts the base game to a higher level.
It has a unique grid system too, where you draft off of it, changes how you lay out the cards each round, which I like too. And the little push and pull you get from the war. And it's just a great game. Not as good as Seven Wonders, but it's still good.
I will say my nitpick to your list, Peter, is the fact that Mansion of the Madness made it on your list, but Betrayal did not.
Yeah.
You sold out.
No, I did. You know what? I sold out a little bit, and that's because Betrayal is probably, at this point on my list, it's probably somewhere around the 12 to 13 range. It's still really close to the top 10. Because I absolutely love Betrayal. But you are not wrong, Evan. I am also a bit of a sellout. But not so much that I took Dungeons and Dragons away. I put it right on there. I put it right at the very top.
We're going to have Peter on there. He defends the RPGs from my onslaught of attacks.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I just wanted to get a little bit of a comeback for people. Dungeons and Dragons is definitely not the monopoly of board games or of RPGs. I would literally say D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, is, in a sense, the Lords of Waterdeep of board games. It is a great intro to playing role-playing games, I believe. And again, I am not saying that other RPGs aren't better than D&D. I have not played enough RPGs to say which one may be better than D&D. But at this point, for me, D&D is the best game, period.
I don't think we should let James say anything more about D&D or we'll lose so many viewers.
Wind back a little bit. I think that the 5th ed is better than the Lords of Waterdeep equivalent. First edition is definitely the monopoly of RPGs. But 5th ed is so much farther along.
If you want to make a comparison, first ed is like the Trivial Pursuit of role-playing games.
That's like worse.
Something really dated that hasn't been played much lately.
Trivial Pursuit. Like I have a loathing for Trivial Pursuit. If I had like a bunch of 12-year-olds that I was related to and I couldn't leave the room and they wanted to play Monopoly, I would do it. If they wanted to play Trivial Pursuit, I would jump out a window. So
you'd have to compare it to some other old board game that isn't really on the market anymore.
Pretty much Monopoly. It just won't die. It will, but it still just won't die. People are like, oh, you know what? We need to have shelves of Monopoly. Why? I don't know. It has Simpsons on it.
Yeah, let's get off of this and move on back onto Peter's list. And I think I really do like Peter's list. It shows that he's matured as a gamer compared to last year. Some of the games that fell off, like Carcassonne in particular. It's a good game, but it's really kind of a first-time gamer game.
No, I mean that's why it fell off the list. I have played more games, and so I have more games to compare.
I do love Raiders of the North Sea.
It's such a good game.
Such a good game.
Such a good game.
Do we rate it close? Oh, I rated one higher because I'm better.
Just wait. We'll get to you. We'll get to you.
Although Blood Rage, I have to give you the point for Blood Rage.
We'll get there. No. We'll get there, James. Don't think you're going to get away with it. We'll get there.
But I do have to mention one that fell off your list. Actually, I'm the only one that kept it on my list, which surprises me, and that's Wingspan.
Yeah, you were. I was. You are the only one who had it. Who kept that on your list, or was this your first time adding it to your list?
No, it was on my list before last year.
So honestly, I still really enjoy Wingspan. I love it for the art. I still think the game is enjoyable, but my level of enjoyment from that game has vastly waned and way quicker than I expected it to. So it's still a game that I would bring to the table, but as I play more games and I find my style of game, that one is not really, I think, my favorite style of game. I'm finding that I actually really enjoy head-to-head. I enjoy player versus player. Dune Imperium gives you that with that battle at the end of every round. I enjoy games that incite conflict and, rage with blood. The nice, quiet serenity that is Wingspan. And again, there's that video that people can go and watch on our YouTube channel with me doing my best impression of Bob Ross. It's a great game, but that serenity that brings is not I don't think at the core of me as a board game player.
You heard it here first. Pete is a rabble rouser. He's a rebel and a psychopath. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You think I'm the troublemaker?
Oh no, it's definitely growing to be me, James. I'm gonna bring it at you. I'm gonna lose every time, but I'm still gonna bring it.
Nah, I don't know. You're getting better at that game. I think you're gonna give me a run for my money in the next game, especially with Concordia, with how much you're playing it.
Oh, I'm prepping. I think it's Dane's turn.
Sure, bring it.
The Crew number 2.
Hey, that's a good choice. Well, maybe number 2 is a little high, but
no, I think my nitpick is going to be a game that I definitely like, but Quacks of Quedlinburg in the top 10.
I played it a lot. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's a fun game, but
it's relatively quick playing too.
Okay, all right. So we're leaning into fun and quick playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The art style was just so odd with that.
The Quacks of Quedlinburg? I didn't mind it. I like Dan's response. He's like, eh.
It's like I don't really see the art style as being odd, and I don't see the art style as being a big detriment to the game. The fact that it's a little cartoony, actually, I think kind of leans into it.
Well, I do have to say one thing about Dan's list. Dan is definitely the biggest wild card of the group. He has
absolutely
Peter had a lot of changes, but Dan has more.
Yeah. And honestly, I think you're I can't pin down, like I said, I'm kind of pinning down my style of game. I can't pin down what is Dan as a board gamer. He's a bit all over the place.
But can you really pin down what is Dan
at anything?
At anything. Part of this, I think, is how I formulate my list compared to you. You guys formulate your list. Like, I know that James, for example, sort of like goes after his most favorite games of all time when he makes these top 10s. I don't look at my most favorite games of all time when I make my list. I just look at what has been capturing my attention / table for the last year and a half is usually the period that I look at.
Yes, but the list is supposed to be top 10 games of all time.
It's just top 10. This is my top 10 right now. And I think the fact that it can change dramatically from year to year is actually a benefit rather than a detriment.
Just shows you're fickle.
Silly
I was gonna say I am a little surprised though that Euphoria fell off.
Oh, that's a good game, yeah.
It was a good game that we've played it. I think I only got to play it the one time with everybody, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game, and you were really onto it last year. So if this is a list of the games that are really grabbing your attention, then what is it about the games that fell off that made it lose that attention? So what about Euphoria went away?
It was probably play count, to be perfectly honest, because I formulate my list somewhat mathematically, where I just take a look at how many times did I play the game? And, what do I rate it on the Geek? Is this a 5 out of 5 or is this a 4.5 out of 5? And Euphoria, I do rate as a strong game, probably somewhere around a 4. But I didn't log more than 1 or 2 plays of it in the last year. So that's why it fell off.
That explains the Crew is number 2.
That explains the Crew number 2, right? Because I log that game differently. Every time we sit down to it is a play, whether that's 1 hand or 5. So, but still, we sat down to hands of that game 8 or 12 times. games. So
I was gonna say, and again, 51st State, a big drop from first to sixth. Like this is from the little, I feel like maybe the little that I know of Dan. Dan is a 51st apologist.
oh no, this 51st, if I was making a list for all time, it would probably be in my top 5.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
So you're gonna make a top 10 list of your favorite games of all time? Maybe we'll do that next year.
I might switch it up on you next year. I might not look at the last year and a half. I might look at like the last 5 years, and then it will be practically of all time.
I mean,
my top 10 of my top 10s.
Your Glory to Rome's not on there, so obviously you're willing to let it go now.
Yeah, that's what I understood.
I mean, it's not on there, so why keep it?
What I call it? I don't get it to the table because Ken doesn't like it. Is basically the bottom line there. Glory to Rome is if I could get it to the table like 2, even 3 times a year, it would be in my top 5.
Well, if it's not getting to your table, you should give it to someone who's going to get to the table on a regular basis.
No.
That wouldn't be me.
No.
That wouldn't be me, actually.
That would be me.
But there's some things that are worth holding on to, though. That is one of them.
James just walks over every once in a while to Glory of Rome and says, "Yes, I know. You feel a little, unloved, but I do love you. That's why you're on the shelf."
So I'm actually going to do a little blasphemy here. I actually think 51st State is better than Glory to Rome.
Okay, defend yourself.
It's more for me.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
The gauntlet is thrown. I slapped Dan across the face really hard with the gauntlet. Well, I mean, first off, it's not even on your top 10, but 51st State is. But no, I think 51st State is a more stable version of Glory to Rome. I think the point of Glory to Rome is it's unstable and everything's crazy on it. And you do explosive stuff in 51st State. It is an explosive game too. It's just a little stabler for a little longer, I think, than Glory to Rome. And it definitely doesn't have like super crazy stuff happen at the end, but it does explode at the end. So I just like the additional like little bit of stability that 51st State has in it, basically to, I guess, create the longevity of the game, or at least and guarantee a certain play time for the game over Glory to Rome. That's it. For me, that brings it better than Glory to Rome, but that doesn't mean Glory to Rome is bad. It just means I like 51st State better, and that's my defense for it.
I mean, obviously, I like both games, and both games remain in my collection because they provide different play experiences. They're both like engine building card games, but like you say, Glory to Rome can be slow and methodical or explosive or straight up broken from turn to turn. Sometimes you're broken one turn and then like things break so hard that you're piddling and doing nothing the next. 51st State has a better kind of curve to it, I guess would be the best way to put it. More consistent, though. People will still have the option to attack other players and take out their production buildings so that they can no longer like churn for victory points.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't played either of them enough to really judge. But I want to move on to the fact that, Dan, your number 3 and your number 4, that being Terraforming Mars and Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, both fell off your list. And I know you're probably going to repeat yourself, but I'd like to get an answer on that, why those fell off.
So Arkham Horror 3rd Edition and Terraforming Mars were both actually near misses. This would have been 11 and 12, both of them.
Which I would like to say for your number 3, I give you an applause because you joined with a few of the other of us for fitting Dune Imperium into number 3. As I saw and looked at the list, 60% of this podcast put it at number 3.
I don't think we really want to talk about that yet.
Which, if we expanded it a little bit more, 80% of this group had it in the top 3. Just saying.
There's just one more thing I wanted to comment on Dan's list is, I mean, despite all of the wildness and the randomness of his list changing every year, Fortune and Glory is the one that's been steady. It's been on the list every year. It's been high on the list consistently. Well, not high on the list. It started high on the list, went down, but it's still on the list. So a really popular game for you.
Well, it's a game. It's one of the few games that's in our collection that if one of us, me or my brother, suggests it, it's most likely going to get played because of the additional stresses and problems that happened with shutdown and everything else is going on this year. It didn't get played as much as it would normally, but we get that to the table 3 or 4 times a year, and it's always like an event game sort of for us. So
I'm surprised Shiver Me Timbers didn't end up on your list.
Yeah, it wasn't on my short list either. Maybe I only played it two times. I must have played it at least 3 because I thought I played it with Ken twice and then you guys once. That might be an oversight.
Yeah, it sounds like an oversight on Dan's part here.
Oh, we found an anomaly.
That could be an oversight. I will not I cannot confirm nor deny that without actually going to my BGG and checking my play logs.
That is still after this top 10. That is still my biggest regret.
It's not
is
fun
that I
to
was not available to play with you guys that evening because everybody seems to have loved that game, and it sounds like it would be right up my alley. So
Shiver Me Timbers, apparently, according to my BGG file, I only have 2 plays logged with it, so that's probably why it didn't show up on my radar.
See, I'm still thinking you should have 3 because
I'm thinking I should have 3. It's probably just a missed log or something.
mm-hmm.
So it's an amazing game. So definitely, Peter, you're going to get to play. Peter could just come over to my house one day and we'll just play all day long.
Just
as soon
wait.
as I get rid of kids.
I was gonna say, I'm just waiting for that invite. As soon as that invite happens, I'm over. I feel like I'm by your house at least once a week anyways, picking up stuff. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, we got more coming.
Okay.
So I think we're going on to Crush Nathan now.
Oh my gosh, Nathan.
I will just fire the first shot. What the heck's wrong with you? Dune Imperium isn't on your list. Like, what? How do you hate puppies? Do you hate babies? Do you hate like everything good in the world? Like how
everything that's good in the world.
Everything that's good in the world. Like
you
walk down the street and just like push people over because you're too happy.
I bet you he doesn't eat ice cream or pizza either.
He probably doesn't eat ice cream or pizza. It's just happiness.
What is wrong with his list? I'm looking at his list. The list looks fine, except of course I've never played Mechs and Minions.
Dune Imperium isn't on it.
Oh, Dune Imperium isn't on it. Oh, what an oversight.
No, why? Why? What?
Oh,
did you forget Dune
right
Imperium?
There.
Were you like
right there on number 3 next to Gloomhaven? Right.
I talked about the numbers earlier.
So this was on my number 16. I really did consider strongly being much higher, but I did play through a lot of my potential top 10s shortly before doing this list, and I noticed something with Dune Imperium that brought it down a little bit for me. Not enough to get it off my favorites. It's still number 16. Is there is a habit the first time you play this, you can lead yourself into a big problem where if you're culling cards, you can pretty much take yourself out of the game by culling the wrong cards, not paying enough attention to what places those cards allow you to go to. So for a new gamer or somebody who's just learning this game, that could be a detriment. But this is a game that definitely gets stronger the more often you play it. I kind of factored that into my considerations when I did the top 10.
Well, I think strong culling in the game, if you don't know what you're doing when you're doing strong culling, it is an advanced strategy that doesn't always pan out. I mean, I don't win a lot with Dune Imperium, but I love culling and deck building. And it's a weird thing too. Like, most people, I don't think most newer gamers think about, I want to get cards.
Yeah, I was going to say when I started playing deck building, culling cards would not have been my first strategy at all.
He's playing with gamers that have played Dominion, which there's a lot of trashing cards in Dominion and stuff like that. But it's more dangerous than Dune Imperium because you don't have that many cards.
So not only did Dune Imperium not make top 10, it's 16.
Well, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Like, in particular, the factions. Actually, early game, if you just call that diplomacy card, you may not have any faction cards. You may not be able to take any faction actions and may not even realize it till the end of the game that you have no way of actually taking the faction action.
Have you seen that actually happen? Somebody called that card?
Yes, I've done it. I made that mistake more than once.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, you could purchase the cards with it on it, but
yeah, if you're not paying enough attention to the areas and you're going for like the really strong sounding cards.
It's a trade road deck builder too. Like the right cards might not come up at the right time.
I was reading a lot of strategy stuff on that because I like that game a lot. And some people never use the factions at all. You can blitz the game by not using them.
Oh, that's 100% true. It's just the idea of not realizing you don't have that option anymore.
Yeah, be careful what you trash.
Right. So it's a mistake. Once you make it, you're not going to make that mistake again unless it's been a long time since you played the game.
Admit it twice.
Yeah, because I don't play my games that often, unfortunately. But I definitely foresee this going back up into the top 10 and high up to the top 10 once I get that expansion.
There's a lot of stuff in that expansion. There's a lot of stuff in the expansion. And to myself, I'm excited about the expansion. I'm definitely getting it as soon as Dan decides to get into the store. I don't know.
Yeah, seriously, Dan, what's your problem?
He's just like, I'm just going to sit on these games and just not get them in. Remember.
Out of my hands.
But I'm always worried when an expansion comes with a lot of stuff. Like they're overlaying the board too. There's going to be a new market that you can grab stuff from. There's going to be technology cards and stuff that are going to be available. There's going to be dreadnoughts that you can deploy. There's going to be a lot of things. And sometimes that makes a game worse. Sometimes it makes it better, but it's more to the worst side normally. So I'm interested in see what this does.
I kind of have a self roast on this too.
Okay, Nathan's allowed to make fun of
you
Nathan.
go ahead.
That's totally fine.
You gotta jump on the floor.
Yeah, you want to roast yourself? Sure.
Last year was definitely a weird year. My list changed a lot last year because I'd been playing a lot of light games for a long time, for most of last year, and so I had a lot of lighter games. And then I noticed on this year it kind of became very similar to what it was in 2020 again. There's a lot of things that popped back on my list this year, or several games rather. Dead of Winter and Blood Rage being. I don't know what I was thinking dropping Blood Rage off last year.
I think it's going to be a long time before Blood Rage comes off my list. But you proved, you and Tan both agree, Zaya's not that great. It's not on either of your top 10s. Oh, so sad.
Zaya was my number 12.
Not a top 10. Oh, so sad. So sad.
It's an amazing game. It is a slightly flawed but amazing game.
Amazing game that I want to play. But yes,
it's not a top 12 list.
It's still totally worth it. I'm not getting rid of Shia. Sorry.
The expansions fix the flaws, but it's a lot to teach the base game and the expansions all at once to a new player. At least for me, because I haven't played the game enough to really be comfortable teaching it. I know Dan's played a lot more and is very comfortable teaching.
Yeah, I could probably do it.
Yeah, I'll say I have like a little over 320 games that I love. They're over on that wall there. So I will play any of them anytime, ever, anyone wants. And making my top 10, I had to pick 10 of those 320 games. It's actually 320 plus. It's hard, and the other ones are still good. But yeah, I know what you're saying. And Wingspan, number 5, really?
I've never had a bad game of Wingspan. It's just very satisfying. It's a simple, relatively simple game, but there's something about it. It's the flow of it, the pace of it. It just works very well. It's a game that it's light, but it's a perfect duration for what it is. And the art, beautiful art, doesn't hurt at all. And the little app where you can show the birds on your phone and get them to tweet. It's a nice little add-on.
Side note for Wingspan, I listened to our podcast for the Waiting Games and our game and talking about the 1-star reviews. I just was laughing so hard about the 1-star reviews for Wingspan as I was driving back from Oakmont today.
They were pretty epic.
I had double checked my collection here. You said you owned like 300 some odd games. Apparently I own 75 according to Board Game Geek. That's core games, no expansions.
You got to get a KLAC shelf, and then your collection just like shoots through the roof because you can put so many games on that. Just like, you should see my thing. It's towering on top of it. I shoved it in there. There's games behind the things. I have like the little bin on the bottom where I put all the small games. Like, you could get so many games on the KLAC shelf. So many. We're not sponsored by IKEA. We're not sponsored by IKEA, but oh my gosh, best game shelves. Yeah, why is Blood Rage and Dead of Winter 9 and 10?
Dead of Winter is 10 only because of Forgotten Waters. That may change next year because Forgotten Waters is a very new game to me. I've only had it for really only a few weeks, but it is such a phenomenal game. We'll see how it stands next year.
Yeah, I think you'll keep playing it. I mean, it has a lot of content, and the content with the Crossroad cards in it is better than Dead of Winter because the Crossroad cards will work for the scenario that you're in and the player characters that you pick. So I think the Crossroad system is better on it. It's more like, do you want to play with a pirate theme or a zombie theme?
And that's part of the problem too. It's like, I do prefer the zombie theme myself, but my play group doesn't want anything to do with it. So I only really get to play Dead of Winter once a year when I'm visiting James.
Yep, definitely. All right. So I guess I'm up. My list is perfect. So we're good. Everyone's good. We can keep moving on now.
Oh, no. Your list is far from perfect. Yeah. So let's see. Dune Imperium isn't 3. Did you not get the memo that it was supposed to be 3?
Shame.
I just played so much of Dune Imperium. I love the game. I've played it so much, and it had to be my number 2. It just works for so many people. And it's so easy to teach. So like, it's like Lord of the Waterdeep used to be, where we played it constantly because it's fun and it's easy to teach and it's great. This game is fitting that. And I think it does what Lords of Waterdeep, the feel of Lords of Waterdeep, I think it does it better overall. Like I said, it has like parts from Clank and it has parts from Lords of Waterdeep, and that puts them together really well.
I see in the show notes here that this is the first time that 51st State was on your top list. You had not previously owned this game, but we had played it a couple times, right?
I've only played it once, and that was with you guys. and I didn't own it, and I bought it last year.
Okay, that's right.
Or-
You got the master set, right?
Yeah, and I got at least one expansion for it in there, and it's just a wonderful game.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve to be 9. It deserves to be like 2. Yeah, definitely.
I don't know about 2. Maybe if it keeps coming up and we keep playing it and doing that stuff, it'll go up. But this is actually the first year my thing really changed. Like, I don't change much. There's a lot of games on here that are, I think, in my top 10 that I just didn't play enough of to justify putting them in. Like the new Summoner Wars game is amazing.
And I feel like you're falling out of love with Eric Lang because Rising Sun fell off your list. Ankh didn't make your list. You only have one Eric Lang game on here now.
Yeah, Rising Sun is 11 and Ankh was 17.
Is that in anticipation of a new one possibly coming out within the next few years?
If they come out with, he's supposed to do Blood Rage 2, which will be amazing. I like a lot of Eric M. Lang's designs. They're great. I solidly think that Blood Rage out of the trilogy of games is the best out of them. Ankh is a completely different animal, but he keeps wanting to compare them as a trilogy. So with that, I think Blood Rage is better. Rising Sun, I think I've grown to like it a little bit more, but it is definitely has a barrier of entry game. It is a high level competition game, sorts. It's hard to play with new players with Rising Sun because you understand what has to happen. You understand like the plethora of things that you can purchase and buy during the game. And a new player has a hard time because they'll play that game. Then you can pick a different season on there and you have all new cards and they're just lost again. So Rising Sun didn't make my top 10 for that. Ankh, I really didn't play it all that much. And it's a great game.
This could be one that brings the attention back to me, but of all those games, I have not played any of them, including Blood Rage.
That is a sin.
It's not. Don't worry about it, Evan.
It is. It truly is.
It's easily fixable, though.
It's easily fixable. Blood Rage, you definitely should play. Out of all of them, I think Ankh you should play also, and I will teach you Rising Sun. Like I said, Blood Rage and Ankh are actually 2 completely different games. There's not a whole lot in common between the 2. Ankh's more strategic by a large amount than Blood Rage, even though Blood Rage is still just strategic. But Ankh doesn't really have randomness in it. Blood Rage does, because it's in the cards that you draft in Blood Rage that gives you the random element to it. You do have a lot of control in that still, but it's still random. You may, even with people hate drafting or not hate drafting, you still may not have the opportunity to get the cards and combos you want, but that's a big difference.
James, I noticed that Terraforming Mars, the original game, was like your number 5 last year, and then Terraforming Mars Aries Expedition sneaked on your list at 10, but original TM is nowhere to be found. Do you know where original TM ended up in your ranking system?
Like 40 some.
Oh my lord. Why is that game not better than Aries Expedition?
So Terraforming Mars was my number 5
last year.
5 last year.
And the year before. The thing is I just terraformed myself out. I mean, the game is long. And the expansions are generally most of them made the game longer and worse for that, with the exception of Terraforming Mars Prelude, which actually helped speed up the game and gave you those different corporations to pick from, but also those prelude cards that give you a boost at the beginning of the game. And I just like Terraforming Mars Aries came out. I know I'm like in the minority about it, but it added in elements that I really liked, which is going to be the role selection with the following thing going. And I really like the additional depth of strategy it gave. And Terraforming Mars did lack one thing. It did lack a lot of player interaction. There's very little player interaction in Terraforming Mars. There's some, but very little. In Terraforming Mars Aries, it put the player interaction back into the game. It also super shrunk down the time to play the game. And I currently enjoy Terraforming Mars Aries a lot more than Terraforming Mars, the original game. It's just, and I have like 50-ish plays of Terraforming Mars in too.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say you're in my minority on this, because a lot of people do seem to prefer Aries Expedition, just not in this group. But as far as the length, yeah, if you have AP prone players, Terraforming Mars can take a long time. If you have players that play pretty quickly, it can go pretty quick for the type of game it is. It's actually it can go quick.
I have never had it go quick. And it depends on what your definition of quick is. Like, I played one 2.5 hour game, and that's the fastest I've ever played it.
Like 2 hours, it seems like pretty standard for this game for me.
But I think Terraforming Mars Aries also takes a mindset change when you play it, because I think when people, I don't know, I can't tell what people think in their heads when they're playing things, but I think that when people play Terraforming Mars Aries, they're expecting Terraforming Mars, and that's not what it is. It has like the idea, it's stuff. It's like it has the skin of Terraforming Mars on top of it, but it's not Terraforming Mars.
Right, and I think that's why I was disappointed, because a lot of people were referring to it as like Terraforming Mars, but better. And I didn't feel that was what it was all. And I think I got to go back into it with fresh eyes at some point. But yeah, I was deeply disappointed with my first plays of it. But again, expectations were off.
I recall trying Terraforming Mars Aries Expedition myself. We played it a couple times, I think probably on Tabletop Simulator. And I may have said this already on the channel, but our opinion of it was that it was a good, strong game, but we'd rather be playing Terraforming Mars, the original. Not that they don't provide something a little bit different, but they're just, it's the difference between like second base and third base. They're in the same ballpark, that's for sure.
Well, I will say that my list is, I think, going to even change even more next year, but I already knew some of the games were going to probably push their way on there. And so you have more fodder for me. Everdale, I think, and Summoner Wars are two games that I think are going to be on my top 10 next year.
My question to you is, Shiver Me Timbers pushed to number 1 this year. Will that survive the onslaught through next year?
I don't know. I love Shiver Me Timbers. I guess it's going to be how many times I play it and what the experiences are when I play it more. That's really all it's going to be. As of right now, I don't see it dropping. But I also didn't see Gloomhaven dropping before, if you would ask me like a year or two ago. Gloomhaven, I think, really kills Gloomhaven for me, or at least put me all the way to 7, is the horrendous setup time for Gloomhaven. It's just a pain in the butt. It takes so long. Even with the organizer I have, where I put everything out, everything's organized, and it still takes me like 30 minutes to set up a scenario. And I'm just like, at that point, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just play one scenario. And it's a lot of fun when we do play. It's just too much. I think if I would count the Gloomhaven app, it would be number 1 again. But that's also the problem, is the Gloomhaven Steam game is ruining it for me, because I don't need to set up stuff. And I almost, like, one of my daughters loves the game, so I'm going to keep playing Gloomhaven. But like, if I had the opportunity, I would probably just play the digital game over the real game all the time.
I can see that. And I think the Shiver Me Timbers question is more relevant for myself and Evan, because James is the only one that actually has a physical copy at the moment. So he'll get it to the table a lot more than us.
Yeah, well, Evan also lives locally, so I'll definitely get a couple games of Shiver Me Timber in with Evan, Dan, and Peter, and then we can take pictures of it for you.
And I am in Butler so much.
So I mean, so good. Well, you guys agree the rest of my list is perfect, and we can move on.
There's one more thing I wanted to comment on. I mean, it makes sense to me that Descent dropped off your list because you hate Dungeons and Dragons, and that's pretty much like playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's the closest board game there is and that I've experienced.
Gloomhaven replaced Descent at this point in my life. Descent, I will always play if my daughters ask. It's a wonderful, well-done game. It is different than Gloomhaven. It's more of a chuck your dice side of game and do lots of damage and have a lot of fun, and big miniatures are everywhere. It has its place. But if someone was ever to ask me, I would always play Gloomhaven over it.
Actually, I'm noticing one other thing about your list here. So Raiders of the North Sea came in from nowhere. This isn't a new title for you this year, is it?
Actually, it is. So we're talking about last year because it's just turned 2022. But 2021, I actually got the game in 2021.
Okay.
So it's not a new game. It's new to me.
Do you have the physical copy, or have you just been playing the app, or both? Or
Nope. I have the physical copy. The digital version is great, but I love the physical copy on there. It's also another example of a super easy to teach game that is a lot of fun to play. And I really, really want to get the expansions to it, because I keep saying all the expansions keep making it better and better.
I do really love the unique worker placement mechanisms in that, where you're putting one down and pulling up a different one, so you always have just one worker in your hand.
Plus, apparently, I just like Vikings, pirates, and zombies.
Oh my.
You need ninjas in there somewhere, and then you'll be golden.
That's a fair amount of space, and post-apocalyptic. It's kind of covering a pretty wide swath there.
Yeah, and I will say that, again, like I said on the thing, Dead of Winter and Forgotten Realms are actually tied for me, but I didn't put Forgotten Realms on my list because I just have like the greatest experiences with Dead of Winter, but pretty much they're interchangeable for me.
Yeah,
you mean
mentioned that
Forgotten
last week.
Waters, right?
Forgotten Waters, yeah.
I love Dead of Winter. I just had a really bad experience with it, and that made me actually sell my copy of it. I've like left it go in my life. The game plays so well, but I ended up playing with a couple of friends, and one of them's a very strong personality type that once we got into the game, they kind of took over, and it turned in from playing Dead of Winter to playing Dead of Winter his way, where you need to go do this, you have to go do this, you have to go do this, and then the game was just like, yeah, this is not enjoyable to me anymore.
Yeah, I think that happens. You always get that quarterback. I see it most with Pandemic, like the Pandemic game.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to really bring that out. I haven't had that a lot with Dead of Winter, but I really think those are the worst. And like anytime I have one of those players show up, I'm just like, I always steer to a different game than a cooperative game in any way, because I mean, they could literally just play it solitaire and I could just go eat chips.
Yeah, it's such a nice game, and it kind of ruined that experience for me. And I kind of stay away from games in that style now ever since then. It's just, I don't want to spend the money on the game and not enjoy it.
Yeah, I can see that. Unfathomable is going to be about the same idea too, because it's like based off of Battlestar Galactica, which is another game that I really, really want to play. So I could see that on there. But
playing on Tabletop Simulator, I won't feel bad if that happens because I'm not spending money on the game.
Just don't, play with that friend anymore. Don't speak to that friend anymore.
No, that's not right. It just, I'm big on like, if you like when that happens, just to do different games.
Yeah, you gotta tailor the games to the game group. For certain.
What I call it, if there's one game where I think quarterbacking shouldn't work, it's Dead of Winter, because everyone has their own personal objectives. You can be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I need to do something else. Trust me. I've got a card here that says I need to do something else.
I mean, that doesn't stop some people.
It doesn't stop some people from trying to quarterback. You can be like, hey, you who are trying to tell everybody what to do. You're obviously the traitor, man. Just totally obvious.
That's why I think Dead of Winter is not as much of an issue as Pandemic, because Pandemic, you don't have personal objectives. You just have personal powers. And it's like Pandemic is literally like can just pretty much be a solo game.
I have a weird experiences with that because I have a game group where sometimes I have to quarterback.
So you're that guy.
I really try not to, but I actually end up doing it more in non-cooperative games. I have to help people defeat me sometimes. It's really kind of hard. It's like when trying to show somebody how to play, it's like giving them advice on how to best wipe you out. But yeah, I definitely don't do it with cooperative though.
So we done roasting me so we can get to my game show.
I mean, I would love to roast you more, but honestly, your list is pretty decent. I mean,
it's subpar at best.
That's the best response.
It's barely acceptable.
You have more. You definitely changed a lot more this year than you have in previous years.
James is evolving.
So for each of you guys, make sure you don't have BGG open in any way.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to open BGG right now.
There you go. So what I'm going to do is one of you is going to be the subject expert, and I'm going to pick a game on your list, and you have to tell me the BGG rank of your game. Okay. I'm going to tell you if you are right or wrong, and then the two other players will have to guess as close as they can to the correct number. And what they're going to do is, so let's say Dan says, what is Gloomhaven? He'll say, it's number 5. And I'll be like, no, Dan, you are wrong. Gloomhaven is higher ranked, so it's a lower number. And Nathan will guess, and he'll say 3 or whatnot. Then Evan gets to say whether he believes that Nathan is wrong or not. So Nathan the Gloomhaven is a bad example because it has to be as close to it without going over. So you can't go past the number. Gloomhaven's number 1, so we'd pick like a 50 or something. And you can't go past the number. Once you go past the number, you're wrong. And if the person calls you on it, they'll get 3 points. If the person calls you on it and you haven't gone over the number or past the number, whichever direction it is, that person gets 3 points. First person to 9 points wins. This game was actually, I'm stealing it from Dice Tower because it sounded like a really cool game. So I think it's a cool game. I think it'll work out really well. And we're going to go with the first subject expert will be Dan. Let me bring this.
Of course, I'm an expert.
So, yep, you're going to be the subject expert. So, Dan, I need you to give me the BGG ranking for Maracaibo. What number rank does Maracaibo have on BGG?
I'm gonna say that it's 27.
I'm gonna say, Dan, you are wrong. It is a lot lower, meaning it's a higher number than 27. So we'll go to Nathan first. Nathan, what ranking, which has to be higher than 27, so it'll have to be 28 or higher, what number do you think Maracaibo's rank is?
43.
All right. So it's a big jump there. Let's see. Evan, do you think that Nathan has gone over, or do you want to give what the rank is of Maracaibo?
I'm thinking that it's probably like 65.
All right. So Evan said 65. Nathan, do you think Evan is wrong, or do you think you need to go higher?
I think Evan is wrong.
And Nathan, you would be correct. The ranking of Maracaibo is in the top 50. It is 40.
I was really close, but technically I was over, so you could have called me on.
Could have. So Nathan has the first 3 points. Now Nathan is going to be the subject expert. Nathan is going to be the subject expert for Shiver Me Timbers.
Oof.
All right. So Nathan, what is the BGG ranking of Shiver Me Timbers?
I'm going to guess 134.
And Nathan, I'm going to say that you are wrong. It is we're going to go with higher than that. So it's a larger number than 134. So we'll start with Evan. Evan, what, in your vast knowledge, are you sure Shiver Me Timbers' rank is?
Because it's not readily available, that smaller sample size, I'm going to say like 1600.
1600. Okay. So Dan, do you think Evan is wrong, or what do you know the ranking is of Shiver Me Timber?
Evan's definitely wrong because it's definitely closer to like 10,000.
So you're going to say 10,000?
Yeah.
All right, Evan. Do you believe Dan is wrong, or do you know the ranking of Shiver Me Timbers?
At this point, you know what? I have an idea on this one. I'm going to say Dan is wrong because I'm going to guess it has no ranking yet.
All right. Well, Dan is wrong. The ranking of Shiver Me Timbers. Wow. Wait. You said 10,000, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Dan is wrong. The ranking of Shiver Me Timbers is 4,540.
Went too high. All right.
So now Evan got the 3 points. All right. So now Evan is the subject expert.
Well, I just want to say that just shows we haven't talked about it enough. We need to talk about this game some more.
Yeah, I agree. It's an amazing game.
That settles it. We play tomorrow.
We play tomorrow. So Evan, I got a good one for you. I like how these are like impossible to know anyway. But Evan, you are going to be the subject expert for the BGG ranking of Rise to Nobility. What is the ranking of Rise to Nobility?
1800.
You are wrong. Your number is actually too high. It's lower. It's a lower number than that. So we're going to go ahead and start with Dan. What do you think the ranking is of Rise to Nobility? It's lower than 1800.
1200.
All right. So Nathan, do you think Dan is wrong, or do you know what the actual ranking is of Rise to Nobility?
Thinking it's like 953.
Very specific. All right. I like it. Subject experts all around. All right. So, Dan, do you think Nathan is wrong at 953? Or do you know the true ranking of Rise to Nobility?
I don't think it's 953. I'll go to 800.
800. Okay. So, do you think Dan is wrong, Nathan? Or do you know the correct ranking of Rise to Nobility?
I think Dan is wrong.
Dan is wrong because the correct ranking of Rise to Nobility is 1618. So,
What?
Evan was pretty close, actually. Evan was pretty close. So the points go to Nathan. And now I believe the subject expert is Dan.
Great.
So what game are we going to get from Dan here? Let's see. It's going to be hard. I think they're all hard. Actually, let's do this one. Dan, you're going to be the subject expert for...
It's going to be Fortune or Glory or The Crew.
No, it's going to be Fortune and Glory.
Oh, no. Yes.
All right. All right. So, Dan, my subject expert, what is the BGG ranking for Fortune and Glory, the cliffhanger game?
Great question. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to say it's around 350 or so.
Dan, you are wrong. The ranking for Fortune and Glory is much higher, so it's a higher number.
Okay.
All right. So, Nathan, what do you know is the ranking of Fortune and Glory on BGG?
862.
All right. So, Evan, do you think Nathan is wrong, or do you know what the true ranking of Fortune and Glory is on BGG?
I think Nathan overshot this one.
Nathan is actually right, or closer to being right. The actual ranking of Fortune and Glory is 995. So that makes Nathan the super quick winner of this game with his 9 points.
Yay.
Oh, well.
I almost went over 1,000, but I was like, let's shoot lower. Like, just hedge my bet.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fun because, like, I don't know what these rankings are.
Yeah. Well, Fortune of Glory, it's a good game, but it's not that well known, not that well much talked about.
I don't think it's that distributed because, like, it's not the easiest game in the world to pick up.
We're just going to talk about it more.
The company responsible for publishing it spends most of their time and energy publishing another title of theirs. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but they put almost all their money in. Yeah.
They've done Shadow of Brimstone. They print the crap out of that.
That's the one. That's the one.
They also Last Night on Earth, they've printed a lot too. But Shadow of Brimstone, they print so much of that. It's just like that's an inferior game to Fortune and Glory, I think.
I've never tried any of their other titles actually, but
I've never played Last Night on Earth, but its art just makes me not want to play the game.
I agree with that one.
Last Night on Earth, I actually own it, but I played it once and had no real interest in play again.
Fair enough.
Although the rest of my game group liked it, but I was the zombies, and the zombies are very limited on what they can do, and they would play the survivors.
So that was our fun game and our picking on each other top 10 lists. Thank you for listening.
Good night, folks.
Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback for us, feel free to visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Board Game Geek Guild 2989, or our website at tabletopgamingguild.com. Don't forget to like, follow, and or subscribe. Tabletop Gaming Guild is a product of Tabletop Gaming Guild LLC. All rights reserved.